Hey guys, I know we're not in school, but I recorded a lesson just so we would have it for remote learning. It was nice seeing you guys who came in for testing yesterday, so that's pretty cool. I say yesterday, but I'm recording this today, but whatever. You get what I mean. So the purpose of this lesson is that you'll be able to use reading comprehension skills to understand the story Amigo Brothers. And if you don't like how I'm reading this, the story is in Common Lit, and I will have reading comprehension and written expression activities posted for you that correspond to the story. They'll be assigned to you, so you just have to log into Common Lit to complete the activities. Right now, I'm going to read the story Amigo Brothers and start off with a little biography on the author. Let me start again. The author's name is Peary Thomas, and he wrote this in 1978. Peary Thomas was a writer and poet, best known for his memoir, Down These Mean Streets. Thomas was born to a Puerto Rican mother and a Cuban father. During his childhood, Thomas lived in East Harlem, which became known as Spanish Harlem. In the short story, two best friends become competitors when they must fight each other in a boxing match. As you read, take notes on what the two friends feel after they find out they will be fighting each other. Antonio Cruz and Felix Vargas were both 17 years old. They were so together in friendship that they felt themselves to be brothers. They had known each other since childhood, growing up on the Lower East Side of Manhattan in the same tenement building on 5th Street between Avenue A and Avenue B. Antonio was fair, lean, and lanky, while Felix was dark, short, and husky. Antonio's hair was always falling over his eyes, while Felix wore his black hair in a natural afro style. Each youngster had a dream of someday becoming lightweight champion of the world. Every chance they had, the boys worked out, sometimes at the Boys Club on 10th Street and Avenue A, and sometimes at the Pros Gym on 14th Street. Early morning sunrises would find them running along the East River Drive, wrapped in sweatshirts, short towels around their necks, and handkerchiefs Apache style around their foreheads. While some youngsters were into street negatives, so that would be negative activity when they were growing up, Antonio and Felix slept, ate, rapped, that just means talked, and dreamt positive. Between them, they had a collection of fight magazines second to none, plus a scrapbook filled with torn tickets to every boxing match they'd ever attended, and some clippings of their own. If asked a question about any given fighter, they would immediately zip out from their memory banks divisions, weights, records of fights, knockouts, technical knockouts, and draws or losses. So Antonio and Felix, as you can gather, are pretty knowledgeable about boxing and everything related to boxing. And that love of boxing makes their friendship grow stronger. It said each had fought many bouts representing their community and had won 2 gold-plated medals plus a silver and bronze medallion. The difference was in their style. Antonio's lean form and long reach made him the better boxer, while Felix's short and muscular frame made him the better slugger. Whenever they had met in the ring for sparring sessions, it had always been hot and heavy. Now, after a series of elimination bouts, they had been informed that they were to meet each other in the division finals that were scheduled for the 7th of August. 2 weeks away, the winner to represent the boys' club in the Golden Gloves Championship Tournament. The two boys continued to run along the East River Drive, but even while joking with each other, they both sensed a wall rising between them. What that means is these two boys, even though they were friends, they started to get a little more competitive as they got older and their skills advanced when they were boxing. It says one morning, less than a week before their bout, they met as usual for their daily workout. They fooled around with a few jabs at the air, slapped skin, and then took off, running slightly along the dirty East River's edge. Antonio glanced at Felix, who kept his eyes purposefully straight ahead, pausing from time to time to do some fancy leg work while throwing 1-2s followed by uppercuts to an imaginary jaw. Antonio then beat the air with a barrage of body blows and short, devastating lefts with an overhead jaw-breaking right. After a mile or so, Felix puffed and said, "Let's stop a while, bro. I think we both got something to say to each other." Antonio nodded. It was not natural to be acting as though nothing unusual was happening when two ace boon buddies were going to be blasting each other within a few short days. They rested their elbows on the railing, separating them from the river. Antonio wiped his face with a short towel. The sunrise was now creating day. Felix leaned heavily on the river's railing and stared across to the shores of Brooklyn. Finally, he broke the silence. Man, I don't know how to come out with it. Antonio helped. It's about our fight, right? Yeah, right. Felix's eyes squinted at the rising orange sun. I've been thinking about it too, Panine. In fact, since we found out it was going to be me and you, I've been awake at night, pulling punches on you, trying not to hurt you. Same here. It ain't natural not to think about the fight. I mean, we're both Chevrate fighters, and we both want to win. But only one of us can win. There ain't no draws in the eliminations. Felix tapped Antonio gently on the shoulder. I don't mean to sound like I'm bragging, bro, but I want to win. Fair and square. Antonio nodded quietly. Yeah, we both know it that in the ring the better man wins. Friend or no friend. Better brother or no. Felix finished it for him. Brother, Tony, let's promise something right here, okay? If it's fair, hermano, I'm for it. Antonio admired the courage of a tugboat pulling a barge 5 times its welterweight size. It's fair, Tony. When we get into the ring, it's going to be like we never met. We're going to be like two heavy strangers that want the same thing and only one can have it. You understand, don't you? See, I know, Tony smiled. No pulling punches. We go all the way. Yeah, that's right. Listen, Tony, don't you think it's a good idea if we don't see each other until the day of the fight? I'm going to stay with my Aunt Lucy in the Bronx. I can use Gleason's gym for working out. My manager says he's got some sparring partners with more or less your style. Tony scratched his nose pensively. Yeah, it would be better for our heads. He held out his hand, palm upward. Deal? Deal. Felix lightly slapped open skin. Ready for some more running? Tony asked lamely. Nah, Brock, let's cut it here. You go on. I kind of like to get things together in my head. You ain't worried, are you? Tony asked. No way, man, Felix laughed out loud. I got too much smarts for that. Just think it's cooler if we split right here. After the fight, we can get it together again like nothing ever happened. The Amigo brothers were not ashamed to hug each other tightly. Guess you're right. Watch yourself, Felix. I hear some pretty heavy dudes up in the Bronx. Suavecito, okay? Okay, you watch yourself too, Sabe. Tony jogged away. Felix watched his friend disappear from view, throwing rights and lefts. Both fighters had a lot of psyching up to do before the big fight. The days in training passed much too slowly. Although they kept out of each other's way, they were aware of each other's progress via the ghetto grapevine. The evening before the big fight, Tony made his way to the roof of his tenement. In the quiet early dark, he peered over the ledge. 6 stories below, the lights of the city blinked and the sounds of the cars mingled with the curses and the laughter of children in the street. He tried not to think of Felix, feeling he had succeeded in psyching his mind, but only in the ring would he really know. To spare Felix hurt, he would have to knock him out early and quick. Up in the South Bronx, Felix decided to take in a movie in an effort to keep Antonio's face away from his fists. The flick was The Champion, with Kirk Douglas, the 3rd time Felix was seeing it. Back when I was a kid, I remember watching, this is kind of off to a side, the movie The Champion with Kirk Douglas, and it's a sad boxing movie. I think, not that you're probably ever going to see it, but I was going to spoil it, but I guess I won't. That wouldn't be right. The Champion was getting beaten, his face being pounded in a raw, wet hamburger. His eyes were cut, jagged, bleeding, one eye swollen, the other eye almost shut. He was saved only by the sound of the bell. Felix became the champ and Tony the challenger. The movie audience was going out of its head, roaring in bloodlust just at the butchery going on. The champ punched his shoulders, grunting and sniffing red blood back into his broken nose. The challenger, confident that he had the champion in the bag, threw a left. The champ countered with a dynamite right that exploded into the challenger's brains. Felix's right arm felt the shock. Antonia's face, superimposed on the screen, was shattered and split apart by the awesome force of the killer blow. Felix saw himself in the ring, blasting Antonio against the ropes. The champ had to be forcibly restrained. The challenger was allowed to crumble slowly to the canvas, a broken, bloody mess. When Felix finally left the theater, he had figured out how to psych himself for tomorrow's fight. It was Felix, the champion, versus Antonio, the challenger. He walked up some dark streets, deserted except for small pockets of wary-looking kids wearing gang colors. Despite the fact that he was Puerto Rican like them, they eyed him as a stranger to their turf. Felix did a fast shovel, bobbing and weaving, while letting loose a torrent of blows that would demolish whatever got in its way. It seemed to impress the brothers, who went about their business. Finding no takers, Felix decided to split to his aunts. Walking the streets had not relaxed him, neither had the fight flick. All it had done was to stir him up. He let himself quietly into his Aunt Lucy's apartment and went straight to bed, falling into a fitful sleep with sounds of the gong for round one. Antonio was passing some heavy time on his rooftop. How would the fight tomorrow affect his relationship with Felix? After all, fighting was like any other profession. Friendship had nothing to do with it. A gnawing doubt crept in. He cut negative thinking real quick by doing some speedy dance steps, bobbing and weaving like Mercury. The night air was blurred with perpetual motions of left hooks and right crosses. Felix, his amigo brother, was not going to be Felix at all in the ring, just an opponent with another face. Antonio went to sleep hearing the opening bell for the first round. Like his friend in the South Bronx, he prayed for victory via a quick, clean knockout in the first round. Large posters plastered all over the walls of local shops announced the fight between Antonio Cruz and Felix Vargas as the main bout. The fight had created great interest in the neighborhood. Antonio and Felix were well liked and respected. Each had his own loyal following. Betting fever was high and ranged from a bottle of Coke to hold cold hard cash on the line. Antonio's fans bet with unbridled faith in his boxing skills. On the other side, Felix's admirers bet on his dynamite-packed fists. Felix had returned to his apartment early in the morning of August 7th and stayed there, hoping to avoid seeing Antonio. He turned the radio on to salsa music sounds and then tried to read while waiting for word from his manager. The fight was scheduled to take place in Tompkins Square Park. It had been decided that the gymnasium of the Boys Club was not large enough to hold all the people who were sure to attend. In Tompkins Square Park, everyone who wanted could view the fight, whether from ringside or window fire escapes or tenement rooftops. The morning of the fight, Tompkins Square was a beehive of activity, with numerous workers setting up the ring, the seats, and the guest speaker's stand. The scheduled bouts began shortly after noon, and the park had begun filling up even earlier. The local junior high school across from Tompkins Square Park served as the dressing room for all the fighters. Each was given a separate classroom with desktops covered with mats serving as resting tables. Antonio thought he caught a glimpse of Felix waving to him from a room at the far end of the corridor. He waved back just in case it had been him. Hold on a second. The fighters changed from their street clothes into fighting gear. Antonio wore white trunks, black socks, and black shoes. Felix wore sky blue trunks, red socks, and white boxing shoes. They had dressing gowns to match their fighting trunks with their names neatly stitched on the back. The loudspeakers blared into the open windows of the school. They were speeches by dignitaries, community leaders, and great boxers of yesteryear. Some were well prepared, some improvised on the spot. They all carried the same message of great pleasure and honor at being part of such a historic event. This great day was in the tradition of champions emerging from the streets of the Lower East Side. Interwoven with the speeches were the sounds of the other boxing events. After the sixth bout, Felix was much relieved when his trainer, Charlie, said, "Time change, quick knockout, this is it, we're on." Waiting time was over. Felix was escorted from the classroom by a dozen fans in white shirts with the word "Felix" across the fronts. Antonio was escorted down a different stairwell and guided through a roped-off path. As the two climbed into the ring, the crowd exploded with a roar. Antonio and Felix both bowed gracefully and then raised their arms in acknowledgement. Antonio tried to be cool, but even as the roar was in its first birth, he turned slowly to meet Felix's eyes, looking directly into his. Felix nodded his head and Antonio responded, and both as one, just as quickly, turned away to face his own corner. Bong, 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 the roar returned to stillness. "Ladies and gentlemen, Señoras y Señoras, The announcer spoke slowly, pleased at his bilingual efforts. Now the moment we've been waiting for, the main event between two fine young Puerto Rican fighters, products of our Lower East Side. Loizada, called out a member of the audience. In this corner, weighing 134 pounds, Felix Vargas. And in this corner, weighing 133 pounds, Antonio Cruz. The winner will represent the boys' club in the Tournament of Champions, the Golden Gloves. There will be no draw. May the best man win. The cheering of the crowd shook the window panes of the old buildings surrounding Tompkins Square Park. At the center of the ring, the referee was giving instructions to the youngsters. Keep your punches up, no low blows, no punching on the back of the head. Keep your heads up, understand? Let's have a clean fight. Now shake hands and come out fighting. Both youngsters touched gloves and nodded. They turned and danced quickly to their corners. Their head towels and dressing gowns were lifted neatly from the shoulders by their trainers' nimble fingers. Antonio crossed himself. Felix did the same. Bong bong, round one. Felix and Antonio turned and faced each other squarely in a fighting pose. Felix wasted no time. He came in fast, head low, half hunched toward his right shoulder, and lashed out with a straight left. He missed a right cross as Antonio slipped a punch and counter with 1, 2, 3 lefts that snapped Felix's head back, sending a mild shock coursing through him. If Felix had any small doubt about their friendship affecting their fight, it had been neatly dispelled. Antonio danced, a joy to behold. His left hand was like a piston, pumping jabs one right after another with seeming ease. Felix bobbed and weaved and never stopped boring in. He knew that at long range he was at a disadvantage. Antonio had too much reach on him. Only by coming in close could Felix hope to achieve the dreamed of knockout. Antonio knew the dynamite that was stored in his Amigo Brothers' fist. He ducked a short right and missed a left hook. Felix trapped him against the ropes just long enough to pour some punishing rights and lefts to Antonio's hard midsection. Antonio slipped away from Felix, crashing 2 lefts to his head, which sent Felix's right ear to ringing. Bong! Both amigos froze a punch well on its way, sending up a roar of approval for good sportsmanship. Felix walked briskly back to his corner. His right ear had not stopped ringing. Antonio gracefully danced his way toward his stool, none the worse, except for glowing glove burns showing angry red against the whiteness of his midribs. Watch that right, Tony, his trainer talked into his ear. Remember, Felix always goes to the body. He'll want you to drop your hands for his overhand left or right. Got it? Antonio nodded, spraying water out of his teeth. As he felt better as his sore midsection was being firmly rubbed. Felix's corner was also busy. You gotta get in there, fella. Felix's trainer poured water over his curly afro locks. Get in there, or he's gonna chop you from the back. Bong bong, round 2. Felix was off his stool and rushed Antonio like a bull, sending a hard right to his head. Beads of water exploded from Antonio's long hair. Antonio, hurt, sent back a boring barrage of lefts and rights that only meant pain to Felix, who returned with a short left to the head, followed by a looping right to the body. Antonio countered with his own flurry, forcing Felix to give ground, but not for long. Felix bobbed and weaved, occasionally punching his 2 gloves together. Antonio waited for the rush that was sure to come. Felix closed in and feinted with his left shoulder and threw a right instead. Light suddenly exploded inside Felix's head as Antonio slipped a blow and hit him with a piston-like left, catching him flush on the point of his chin. Bedlam broke loose as Felix's legs momentarily buckled. He fought off a series of rights and lefts and came back with a strong right that taught Antonio respect. Antonio danced in carefully. He knew Felix had the habit of playing possum when hurt, to succor an opponent within reach of the powerful bombs he carried in each fist. A right to the head slowed Antonio's pretty dancing. He answered it with his own left, at Felix's right eye that began puffing up within 3 seconds. Antonio, a bit too eager, moved in too close, and Felix had him entangled in a rip-roaring, punching toe-to-toe slugfest that brought the whole Tompkins Square Park screaming to its feet. Rights to the body, lefts to the head. Neither fighter was given an inch. Suddenly, a short right caught Antonio squarely on the chin. His long legs turned to jelly and his arms flailed out desperately. Felix, grunting like a bull, threw wild punches from every direction. Antonio groggy bobbed and weaved, evading most of the blows. Suddenly his head cleared. His left flashed out hard and straight, catching Felix on the bridge of the nose. Felix lashed back with a haymaker, right off the ghetto streets. At the same instant, his eye caught another left hook from Antonio. Felix swung out, trying to clear the pain. Only the frenzied screaming of those along ringside let him know that he dropped Antonio. Fighting off the growing haze, Antonio struggled to his feet, got up, ducked, and threw a smashing right that dropped Felix on his back. Felix got up as fast as he could in his own corner, groggy but still game. He didn't even hear the count. In the fog he heard the roaring of the crowd, who seemed to have gone insane. His head cleared to hear the bell sound at the end of the round. He was glad. His trainer sat him down on the stool. In his corner, Antonio was doing what all fighters do when they are hurt. They sit and smile at everyone. The referee signaled the ring doctor to check the fighters out. He did so and then gave his okay. The cool water sponges brought clarity to both Amigo Brothers. They were rubbed until their circulation ran free. Bong, round 3, the final round. Up to now it had been tic-tac-toe, pretty much even, but everyone knew there could be no draw and that this round would decide the winner. This time, to Felix's surprise, it was Antonio who came out fast, charging across the ring. Felix braced himself but couldn't ward off the barrage of punches. Antonio drove Felix hard against the ropes. The crowd ate it up. Thus far, the two had fought with mucho corazón. That just means much heart. Felix tapped his gloves, commenced his attack anew. Antonio, throwing boxer's caution to the wind, jumped in to meet him. Both pounded away. Neither gave an inch, and neither fell to the canvas. Felix's left eye was tightly closed. Claret red blood poured from Antonio's nose. They fought toe to toe. The sounds of their blows were loud in contrast to the silence of a crowd gone completely mute. The referee was stunned by their savagery. Bong, bong, bong. The bell sounded over and over again. Felix and Antonio were past hearing. Their blows continued to pound on each other like hailstones. Finally, the referee and the two trainers pried Felix and Antonio apart. Cold water was poured over them to bring them back to their senses. They looked around and rushed toward each other. A cry of alarm surged through Tompkins Square Park. Was this a fight to the death instead of a boxing match? The fear soon gave way upon a wave of cheering as the two amigos embraced. No matter what the decision, they knew they would always be champions to each other. Bong, bong, bong. Ladies and gentlemen, señoras y señoras, the winner and representative to the Golden Glove Tournament of Champions is... The announcer turned to the winner and found himself alone. Arm in arm, the champions had already left the ring. So, that said, after these guys have this brutal fight and they just keep beating the heck out of each other, they stop. And they kind of realize that in round 3, no one is going to win this fight because they're both equals. So what they're going to do is hug each other. And that kind of ends the fight. And then they ring the bell. And then says the announcer turned to point to the winner and found himself alone. The two guys fighting just left the ring and they stopped fighting. So, that said, what your assignment is just to do the discussion questions. With this, I don't believe... there is a clip about competition, and it shows an Ohio runner helping a falling opponent. You can check that out after you read this if you're curious. If you want to go any further, there's also other sports-related texts, and that is about it. So I will assign the reading material, comprehension materials with this text, and everything will be great, I'd imagine. But I will stop recording, and I will see you guys on Thursday.